Xbox is reportedly trialing Tomb Raider, Just Cause, and Hitman Studios ahead of a potential acquisition. So this is coming from Hope Bellingham from Games Radar. Hope writes, Xbox is reportedly trialing the studios behind Tomb Raider, Hitman, and Just Cause with a mind to potential future acquisitions. During the latest episode of Grub Snacks podcast, Games Beast Jeff Grubb discussed Xbox plans for the next few years. After listing Xbox's latest and upcoming releases, including Psychonauts 2, Deathloop, and Forza Horizon 5, Grubb points out the fact that he believes Xbox is happy with its upcoming slate and therefore is looking to try out some new studios with the aim of potentially acquiring them in the future if all goes well. I think this is where Xbox is at right now, Grubb explains, where they're happy with what they have so they can pump the brakes a little bit and then say, okay, let's look around, see what we can purchase. The podcast host then uses an example of studios he believes are being or will be tried out by Xbox, dropping Square Enix's own Crystal Dynamics, Rises Tomb Raider and Perfect Dark, IO Interactive, Hitman 3 and Project 007, and Avalanche Studios, Just Cause 3 and Contraband into discussion. Maybe that's when Xbox will go and say, okay, let's bring Crystal Dynamics into work on this game with the initiative, Grubb explains. Let's get to know them, see how it works, see how it plays out. And if they meet the standards, then we'll say, hey, Square Enix, are you interested in selling Crystal Dynamics? I think that's very likely what's happening. Adam, what do you make of these rumors that Xbox is eyeing to try out some new studios to purchase?
I hate it just because I'm tired of this, of everything getting bought by two people.
Yeah.
I mean, look, like, we made the jokes when Xbox acquired Bethesda that I'm like, okay, Sony, buy Square now or buy Atlas right now so I can protect myself from all the things that I'm worried about. But, like, I don't want it to happen because I want developers to not be pigeonholed by having to deal with the monopolies. But it seems like that's the system we live in now, so every time I see stories like this, it just depresses me because I'm like, great, because Disney's just going to buy them all in the end anyway.
Well, I think this is a situation that the consoles are becoming more and more similar in terms of, you know, they're not changing in terms of what they can and can't do. Like, they're getting more and more ubiquitous. And so how do you differentiate themselves? And I think Sony was early to the table compared to Xbox and seeing that the exclusives are what drives your business. And so I think we're going to see a new round of exclusivity like we used to see with the PlayStation 2 and Xbox era.
Yeah, but could we make the argument that most of the studios that Sony has acquired over the years were very, very, very small and doing their own things, or they were just created by Sony themselves? I don't know the background on every single studio, so I don't know. Like, I'm assuming it's not... Sony hasn't had a Bethesda-level acquisition. We're not talking about Sony looking at, say, like, Capcom, you know? Like, it feels weird that, like, Microsoft is going after big names, and anything Sony signs, most people are like, oh, that's an interesting get.
Well, I think it's one of those things, like, and as I said, Sony has been doing this for a little bit longer, and so they have been kind of doing what, you know, Rob is suggesting here, is that they're bringing people close into the fold, having them do those exclusives. Like, think about how many games, what the heck is it called? The guys who did Returnal.
Oh, Housemarque.
Housemarque. Like, how many games did Housemarque make for PlayStation before PlayStation brought them in? Same with Bluepoint. So I think Sony has this mantra of, you know, getting people to work with them closely, building that relationship, and then once they prove themselves and once they almost become ubiquitously known as a Sony, you know, thing, they bring them in. When Insomniac did Sunset Overdrive, we were all kind of flabbergasted that, you know, they did that. So to see, and then that was really a step out, and then Sony acquired them. So I think we're going to see this more and more. And so aside whether or not you like this, where we're going with the exclusivity, what do you think? Do you think that we will see Tomb Raider, Just Cause, or Hitman become a console exclusive?
I really don't see Square getting rid of Crystal Dynamics just because, like, they are one of their key US studios, unless they just are really upset with Crystal Dynamics after Avengers flopping and they just want to clean their hands of it. Mm-hmm. But, like, they're working on the new Perfect Dark game, so if we found out that Microsoft acquired Crystal Dynamics, my brain would immediately go, oh shit, something's going wrong with Perfect Dark as well, and they just want to wash their hands of that company. That's kind of where because I don't know unless the price tag was so stupidly high. Mm-hmm. But, like, I just, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I can see IO and Avalanche because they're smaller, although IO has been doing Hitman, and then they're going to have the Bond game. But like, I could see those. I still am not like, I guess I just have the problem with like what you said, where Sony quietly like is working with these developers for a long time and then bring them in officially, whereas Microsoft just seems to be throwing wads of cash at things, which I never appreciate in any sort of business. I don't think, it's sure, as fans, I don't think we really care in the end, but like as a practice, I just don't like the idea when people with the biggest amount of money just waltz in and be like, all right, here's X, gimme.
Yeah, I think they're going to purchase Crystal Dynamics? I don't think so. I think, it is a pretty big part of the Square Enix team. Interactive, that's a hard one because I know that Hitman 3 I think it had some bonus or benefits with PlayStation. And we're seeing a lot of the Hitman games showing up on PlayStation Plus. So I think Sony might sort of be courting IO already if they're not actually intending to. But I think they've got a pretty decent relationship with IO that I don't know if necessarily Microsoft will buy it. Obviously, everyone has a price tag, and Microsoft can throw enough money at it to kind of, change hearts and minds pretty easily. But I think if I were to guess, I don't think that's the case. And then Avalanche, I could definitely see Avalanche getting purchased. I typically associate Avalanche games with Xbox, and I think that's a natural transition.
Yeah.
But Adam, I didn't want to kind of spend too much time talking about this. I think this is very speculative and rumors I think could happen, but I think Microsoft is right now at a point where they are looking to catch up with those exclusives, and so they are going to go for those big fish. They're not looking to, and this is not a slight against Microsoft or anything like that, but they're not looking to foster and grow studios. They are looking.
They're taking the DC approach.
Yeah, they are buying the big ones. They are getting those ones, and they're not looking to grow or make anything.
It really is a great comparison, though. Sony has been the Marvel, where they've been slowly working things going and going forward, and now all of a sudden we have all these studios that are just crushing. Everything's running on just absolute full speed ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And Microsoft is looking at that, being like, man, I want that money too. And they just figure if they throw money at the problem, it'll make money back. So who knows? Maybe we'll find out that all these studios they acquire just aren't up to snuff. Who knows? Maybe Bethesda's next big thing with whatever space game is that I'm forgetting right now. See, I'm forgetting a name too now.
Which game? Sorry, who?
The big space game that Bethesda's on right now.
Starfield?
Thank you. Maybe that ends up not being so great, and we all look at that and be like, oh, that's Justice League.
Yeah. I think so. I didn't want to. I kind of wanted to just spend a little bit of time, and clearly we're in a bit of a race to buy up all these independent studios. So I thought it might be a fun little exercise just to kind of talk about some of the studios that we think might get purchased out or sold in the next, let's say, 2 to 5 years. Let's go with some studios that maybe not necessarily are independent, but might, switch hands from one publisher to another. I've got 3 in mind that I think that are going to probably get purchased out, and then the one that's like a very, very long shot. So the first one I have, talking about Square Enix, I don't know if I see them selling Crystal Dynamics, but you know who I do see them selling is Eidos Montreal. The games that they've kind of made so far, they're known for Deus Ex, which has now been put on ice. They're known for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which that was back in 2018. They did the Marvel's Avengers, which not doing super high considering they just included microtransactions into that game. And then they've got Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy coming out this month, I think, actually. So it'll be interesting to see what Guardians of the Galaxy does. And I think if that one does underperform or just kind of fall flat, I think that, I think there might be a conversation to pick up Eidos Montreal. Did you want me to just go through my list? And then
go through yours, because I'm actually running through myself and just trying to see if I can find anything that I can look at right now.
Yeah. The next one, I think this might be another, maybe a little bit of a long shot. And I don't know who purchases it. I think both of them might suit Sony better than Microsoft, but I think either one could definitely want this, is Bioware. I think Bioware has been having some trouble lately. They're not doing super great. In terms of, they haven't had a huge success, a huge release. I mean, their Anthem kind of a bit of a dud. Mass Effect Andromeda, kind of a dud. So I think there's still some love for BioWare, but they're not thriving in their current environment. And so I could see them getting purchased up. Not to say this would be a cheap acquisition, but I definitely think this could be a studio that could be put up for sale. You know, a former racehorse that's not necessarily winning championships, and the owner might be looking to make their money out of them and move on. The last one that's kind of a pie in the sky, but I'd say given the current circumstances that could get purchased is CD Projekt Red. Considering the amount of time and money that they put into Cyberpunk, and for that game, you know, the problems that they've faced and the issues that they've had, like they're a company that is struggling right now. And I could see them, you know, sort of needing an influx of cash. And if not entirely sold out, I could see them sort of having a sort of second party situation where they start making some exclusive content. And I think this might be something that either party could have. Could you imagine if either Xbox or PlayStation could get their hands on the Witcher series? I think that would be a huge get. So I think that's a long shot one. I don't necessarily say, but I could see if Cyberpunk doesn't pan out and we don't have any sort of thing come in soon, I could see CD Projekt Red kind of just having grown faster than they can, because you have to remember before Witcher 3, they were big, but they were small. Like they were always considered I'd say like an A or a AA studio. And now they rose quickly to a AAA game with The Witcher, and it's a fantastic game and totally earns it. And I feel like Cyberpunk may have been a missed shot. And depending on how much they bet on it, that could definitely put them in a situation where they need to have an influx of cash. It's better to be bought out than to be closed out. So what do you think? What do you think of those three pontifications?
What, the long shots?
All three. What do you think?
I mean, I think there's plausibility to everything at this point. I mean, for God's sakes, like you never know. Like I have a crazy long shot in here too, as I just kind of made a list together. But like, I mean, some are going to be more obvious than others. I think CD Projekt Red is a very interesting one, just because of all of a sudden they're not bulletproof anymore. So maybe after the disaster Cyberpunk is, you could always see like the people running CD Projekt Red just kind of sitting there, if the right offer came around, just being like, we can just retire off of this and just be done with it, and then every issue is off of our hands now. We're clean of it. We can just walk away, and it's their problem.
Well, it also, like, you got to think about how much the people have been working. Like, they're working in a pandemic. Like, the pandemic's not been easy, and so they've had that ransomware attack. They've had, or I don't know if it's ransomware, but they've been hacked. You know, they're working from home. The game did not sell as well as it did. Like, they've got a lot of problems right now, and it's curious to see how big their war chest is for their next big project. Like, it may not have the funding that they need to keep up with that level of expectation that we now have.
And like I said, it just may be easier to be like, hey, somebody want to take this problem off our hands so we can just, you know, not worry about it.
Or just, you know, even still, hey, we have this vision, but we don't have the cash and we now need to sell it.
Yeah, it really goes both ways. It's either like they're passionate and they want to keep it moving, or the people at the top just, they don't care anymore and they just want to get their money and run. You know, it goes both ways.
What about you? What are your which ones? What studios do you think we'll see acquired in the next?
So I'm going to go in order of possible to no, but
all right, let's hear it.
It's for fun. I hope that this happens because I think they've got such a good track record that, and this is for Sony specifically, I would love Sony to take this away from people because it makes perfect sense for them being Japanese. If they could get a hold of Arc System Works, the guys who do Guilty Gear, the recent Dragon Ball fighting game, Persona fighting game, and the Grand Blue Fantasy one, like to actually have like, hey, we have the kings of 2D fighters right now in our system. Like that would be a nice like side get, and you can start having some fun projects. Like you could, you know what? If anybody could make PlayStation All-Stars 2 and kill it, it's fucking Arc System Works. Those guys could put together a ridiculous game that features a lot of different licenses all in one package. And they can make it work with their cartoony art style. They can just make everything like 2D, 3D, and just go absolute ham on that shit. I would love that. Probably won't happen, but I would love it. The next one that I think would be kind of interesting, just because they've had a rough patch, they're starting to get back into things, and maybe somebody takes a run at them. I know they're owned currently by the Kobu group, but I would be very interested to see what Deep Silver, Volition, the Saints Row guys end up doing if Saints Row ends up being a very good reboot. And that would be a very interesting get for, honestly, Microsoft at that point.
Yeah, I can see that.
That would be a very sensible one for Microsoft, so they could say, hey, look, we can't get Rockstar because Lord knows Rockstar doesn't need anybody, but we can have GTA, the lesser version.
Rockstar is just the dragon sitting in the mountain, just sitting on its money.
It's Rockstar and Epic sitting next to each other with just way too much money that they make from the one thing they do.
Yeah,
and just being like, we don't care about what you guys have to say. We are gods.
You know what? I think that's a really good suggestion. I could definitely see Deep Silver getting bought by either party, but probably more likely Xbox.
Microsoft would make more sense because that's more tailored to their audience.
100%. And I think I once again, it's one of the things that's a studio where I generally associate with Xbox.
Yeah, I mean Saints Row. I think Saints Row originally was just an Xbox game.
Yeah.
So there's already the connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get to the fun. And
what do you got?
I'm Sony ponying the rest of these three.
All right, what do you got?
So first one is the most likely of all the least likelies.
Okay.
Kojima Productions.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Just cause it already makes sense. There's already a connection there. They're doing the director's cut. I mean, it's on the game trials, so it seems like they have at least some sort of a relationship building.
Yeah. Yeah, that's honestly, I can see that next 5 years.
Now, what are they going to make? Who fucking cares? Who knows? Who cares? Because it's Kojima.
No one knows, and even once the game's released, no one will still know what the hell.
All we know is Jeff Keighley's going to promote the shit out of it. So maybe okay, sorry. Side signage. Sony is going to sign Jeff Keighley in the Game Awards to a full.
So it's a quick chicken and egg. What comes first? Do they get Hideo Kojima and then get Jeff Keighley?
No. You got to get Jeff Keighley first. You got to start. That's the middleman right there.
Who brings who? Yeah, Hideo Kojima doesn't answer anyone's phone, but
just
Keighley,
lure
so
Jeff into the door,
Keighley.
Put some Doritos and Mountain Dew in the doorway. He'll be right there. Okay. I've seen the memes. It has to work.
I can see that. Yeah, that definitely sounds. Yeah, I can see Kojima Productions going to Sony.
Now we get crazier. Bungie.
Ooh.
Just because they already had a previous shit relationship with Activision, and maybe seeing what Sony has been doing with their developers and how they've coaxed them and how they've worked really well with them. Mm-hmm. Maybe Bungie, if they need the money again, because I don't know how Destiny 2 is doing anymore. I mean, they weren't having nearly the funding that they used to. So if they were ever looking for a Destiny 3 and they need an extra bit in the war chest, I mean, Sony is a sensible one for them just because they just got out of a really shit relationship. And if they were going to go into a new one, I don't know if Microsoft is that person either.
But here's the thing, though. Once again, going back to who I associate Bungie, at least traditionally, with Halo, which is an Xbox brand.
And then they happily left.
Did they or were they sold to?
Well, I mean,
do you remember how did they get into Activision's hands?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
We are not historians on this show, and if we are, we need Google to work faster.
My background is in history, so
you know what? Down the line, we are going to need a third person on the show who is just going to be our producer that just gives us all the information. That's going to be the roll down the line.
Send your resume to pixelplaypodcast@gmail.com.
I mean, look, like this is also selfish because I would just love to take something even further away from Microsoft. Like, this is not console war related. I just like the drama. So I think the irony,
the whole point of the console war.
I think the irony of the Halo team, original Halo team, being a Sony first party studio would be quite entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't know. I don't see that happening. I think Bungie kind of enjoys their autonomy that they have now.
They probably do. But like you said with CD Projekt Red, if they ever need the extra funding.
Yeah, but I don't think they're in that bad of a spot yet, right?
Well, it depends on if they want to get Destiny 3 going and they have a lot to build. It's like that's really where it stands. But Destiny 2 is going to be going for a while still, it seems.
But this is the thing too. This is the counterpoint, is that I can see Bungie from a Halo perspective staying with Xbox, but at the same time, Destiny, they do have a relationship with PlayStation, so it's hard to say.
I mean,
but you know what? I wonder if
the biggest key, honestly, is I think now that Sony's at least willing to do more PC stuff, I think that opens the door for Bungie because they were starting to put Destiny as a big PC game. So
yeah,
Not to
Now, the
mention, if
question I
Bungie
wonder-
wanted to get away from Destiny and have another team do something completely new and they really don't have the funds to work on that, that's another open door too.
Yeah. I think the thing, though, is with Bungie, I wonder how much that Division stuff was a relationship with Bungie, the developer, or if it was with Activision, because I know that.
Oh, I
Call of
guarantee.
Duty
I
was-
think most of the reason why they left Activision was Activision, which I don't think anyone's
sorry.
surprised
What
by.
I'm saying is that relationship between Bungie and the PlayStation, when we think of like, when we think of, oh my, what the hell, Destiny. That's what I'm thinking of. With Destiny, like Destiny's relationship with PlayStation might have been a result of Activision's relationship with PlayStation, because they were partnering with Call of Duty and Destiny, and I think that might have been that relationship. So there might actually be bad blood between Bungie and PlayStation that we don't even know about.
Who knows?
Anyways, continue on. Let's hear these wild
All right,
speculations.
and this is the big one that there's no chance in hell, but I kind of would love to see the world burn with something as crazy as this. Sega. Only because Sega in the last little bit has really done a lot of restructuring. Like their arcade business is basically almost shut down. So like there are a lot of changes going on in that company, and it seems like it'd be prime time for somebody to walk into that office and be like, "Hey, you guys have been making a lot of changes here. Do you really want to deal with this anymore?" And just it's like, "Hey, look, just come be part of the family and just kind of have fun with the rest of us." And when you think of like, and this is why we're going way off the rails, like the amount of stuff that Sega carries with them is what's more intriguing.
Yeah,
and like if you want to talk about like a big overhaul with the library, Microsoft's starting to climb the ranks with, getting some big wigs. You throw Sony in there, all of a sudden you have Sonic the Hedgehog, you have like the Yakuza games, which just recently started getting Xbox releases.
Here's the one, Persona, that would lock it down.
Well, and it would already be a relationship that makes sense because Persona's already been a big Sony seller to begin with.
But I think the thing with Sega, like if they get rid of it, like that's them just basically giving up and shutting it all down. And I think Sega is seeing a bit of a resurgence in the sense of, Yakuza's doing well. Like I said, Persona is really popular. Like,
oh, the games are and this is the thing. I'm not saying Sega because their games division is floundering. I'm saying because the company outside of their like production studios is all over the place. It is a mess from what I've read. So it would be very interesting if they just say like, man, like we're doing all these things. Like this is becoming a hassle. I don't think it's like, again, this is, like I said, this is the biggest long shot that I had.
Oh, it's definitely a long shot. I don't think it's happening.
But this is for fun.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Like there's like pie in the sky ones, like, could we ever see like Warner Brothers Studios get out of their game development? Like there's tons of these kind of situations. Like THQ Nordic is really just a house of cards that, like, I don't know how the heck it's still standing, but like there could be a fire sale on that at some point. Who knows? You could
do so much cool stuff. And if Sega's under the banner, it doesn't even have to be Sega making all the games. Like you can trade off some of their licenses to the studios you have. You could have a team finally like making a Phantasy Star game or a Shinobi game for the first time in forever, or you give what's the company that does their racing games right now? It's is it Polyphony? I think it's
Polyphony.
Polyphony, thank you. You give them like they could do a hang-on game like the motorcycle one, like the old motorcycle. Like there's a lot of weird possibilities that they could do with it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think there's some good.
Most importantly, I just want to see Crazy Taxi back.
Bring back Crazy Taxi.
Let's go. Give that to Blue Point. Crazy Taxi remake.
There you go. It's a natural transition from Dark Souls.
Exactly. Perfect.